great that you're able to be on here. I'm here to, answer your questions, give you some information. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your BrainTap journey first, and then we'll go from there, and I'll answer any questions and see if we can enlighten some other people as well.
Okay. Well, the reason I got interested, I honestly don't remember where I saw it, maybe on Facebook, I can't remember. But I'm a retired nurse, 27 years of shift work, and my sleeping is for the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And even they don't want it. So
Yeah.
that really interested in me. So that's why I initially ordered it. Now, I have to say that I haven't been using it quite as much as when I first got it. I was using it about 2 or 3 times a day for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I found that it's really helped with weight loss. Like, it has really diminished the amount I eat. It's almost funny that you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're full. But sleep, not so much. I haven't had the results, and in fairness, I might not be using it as much as I should either.
Okay, let's talk about that first for a while. What we find the best results, because of the shift work, your brain has become dysregulated with the sleeping patterns. And I can identify with that. My grandma was a head nurse, and two of my aunts were nurses, and they were always they're all retired now, but they were uh, they would one week work days, the next week work second, the next week seemed like they were working third, and they were just
Yeah.
jacking their body all around. So what that does, it sets the brain up. Our brain loves patterns. It loves doing the same thing. So unfortunately, our body is also designed to go to sleep. If we don't go to sleep from 10 to 2 at night, wherever you're at in the world, we don't produce as much melatonin. So that starts dysregulating the brain. So depending on how many years you did it, we have some work to do. But we've helped a lot of people. We just actually finished a study in New Zealand with third shift workers who were mind workers. They worked in mines and not mental, but they were they would go down into these mines, and their problem was they didn't know when daylight was anyway. So they're down there working away, and we had to teach them. So what we find works the best in most of our studies is you start the day off with one of our AM sessions, and those sessions, what they do is we call it digital coffee, because we need to upregulate the brain in the morning. And
Okay.
just because you slept through the night doesn't mean you woke up on an up cycle. So there's 4 primary brain waves that we use. And when we're sleeping, we go through these different rhythms, right? We go from wide awake being beta down into alpha, then theta, then delta. And if we can spend most of our time in delta while we're sleeping, that's a good thing. But we also need to regulate and come out of sleep in what they call SMR, sensory motor rhythm, which is the one that brings us the energy. So in the morning, when we start doing that, what we find is that morning session is actually the most crucial for getting you back sleeping. So
Okay.
start by, and that also starts the brain's clock because you're now awake. Until then, when we've measured people, the unfortunate thing we find is that most people are running around, and even though they didn't sleep well last night, their brain is still in delta. So it's almost like they're moving through their day with a parachute behind them, and it's dragging instead of them having the energy they need. Now, also, it's normal for every person at 2 o'clock, no matter where you're at in the world, your body is going to have a dip in temperature. And now, if you were in the UK, they'd say it's tea time. If you're, in North America here, you might say it's time to go get a coffee or something like that, because that's what people do. But the reality is that our bodies are designed to take naps. Because we have to remember, these bodies were designed for the Serengeti. They weren't designed to live in our homes and drive our cars and do all the things that we do. Our brains, of course, and our intelligence has all evolved, but our bodies are still the same body that was there in the Serengeti. And, when the heat of the day was so high, our bodies are conditioned to take that nap. Now, we don't want to do that. Obviously, we don't want to take 4 hours out of every day and take a nap anymore. But BrainTap, any of the reboot sessions. So what we recommend at first is our stress reduction program, or the Worry-Free Me if you have the bundles. Taking one of those sessions in the middle of the day. And what that does, in our research, we found that it actually will, and for you, if you're doing weight loss, you can just do one of the weight loss sessions too. All these sessions are designed to take you through a cycle, but not take you down into delta yet. They take you down into theta, and they bring you back out. And what our research shows is that you can actually reclaim about 80% of the energy that you would have in the morning and the afternoon. And it only takes 20 minutes. So we're retraining the brain again to reboot. Then at night, if you're listening at night, you might find that you can use the full headset if you have it. But if not, you can also just use the app and go to sleep with it. So what?
I have the full headset.
Yeah. So sometimes the full headset at night, you can play around with it. Do you have a way to measure your sleep at all, like a smart watch or some way to measure sleep cycles? Okay. There are a lot of different ways to do that, but obviously you can just tell by the way you feel too. In the morning is going to tell you what you'll know that you're starting to regulate correctly when you start waking up without alarm at a predetermined time that you decided. Because most people need between 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It depends on your cycles, and how you do it. And in fact, like myself, I actually perform better when I'm measuring my sleep if I get 7 hours. If I get 8 hours, I don't really score as well. And if I get 6 hours, I don't score as well. But if I get 7 hours, it seems like that's the magic number for me. But everybody has their own. Some people might need 10 hours. It's just kind of an average. But what we're talking about is that when you listen at night, we want to down-regulate the brain. So the difference between that AM session and that afternoon session is that the ones at night actually take you down and put you into deep delta. So do you wake up in the middle of the night or do you sleep through the night?
Well, my pattern was that I would go to sleep almost as soon as I closed my book, and at about 2 o'clock I'd wake up, and then I was awake for the rest of the night. So I'll be honest with you, what I've started using is some CBD and some THC oil, and that has helped my sleep. I'm now doing 6 hours, although I'm finding again now I'm starting to wake up again. It's just
so I would still take those. Those are fine. Remember, the only reason that those cannabinoid receptors in your brain are being triggered, it's still your brain doing it. So we work a lot with CBD and different things like that. Take the CBD and then do the light and sound session, and you're going to start conditioning your brain to get even more out of it. You'll get even more relaxation. But also, even just you can have it just in the room. The sleep sessions aren't as important to be stereo. If you can play it in the room and just reach over, if you wake up in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, play another session. We need to condition your brain to stay in that deep state. What's happening is, think of the different cycles. You're going in and out like this. And when you get up here, if you get too close to beta, and then it pops out. It's like, have you ever held a balloon underwater, and then when it comes close to the surface, it pops up. You can't get it back down. It's too much pressure. We need to train the brain not to come out. Every night, you should be going through 7 or 8 cycles of sleep. Now, if you're coming way up because maybe you're used to working at night for all those years, or just regulated your brain because you were working 12-hour shifts or whatever they were having you do when you were working as a nurse, we need to recondition that. And it's okay to do other things. We also recommend, of course, that you try to discontinue any liquids about 2 hours before sleep, just to get your body. But even if you drink, believe it or not, even if you drink a gallon of water, you should not have to wake up and go to the bathroom at night, because your kidneys actually cycle through.
Yeah, so. I rarely have to go to the bathroom at night. I'll tell you what happened, what I was finding. I'd do a sleep session just as I was ready to go to sleep. And sometimes I'd doze off. But I'm such a light sleeper that when I have to take my headphones off because I sleep up, and that woke me right up. I don't
right.
know.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Listen in the room. Maybe listen with speakers in the room. You might have to do that. Some people, until you condition yourself to go to sleep. A lot of people, after they've done the sleep sessions for about 6 months, they don't even need to do the sleep sessions anymore. And it's really important that you don't just go right to sleep. As counterintuitive as that seems, when you go right to sleep, you don't give your body a time to unwind. So think of all the emotions of the day are building up throughout the day, and you've got to slowly that's what the relaxation session is going to do. So stay with it. And then if you're wearing earbuds, some people can just wear the earbuds and they just fall asleep, and the earbuds just fall out. But if the headset, for some people, like you said, once you take it off, that might be too much activity, and you're bouncing back out into beta to do that. So And I think that once we start getting your brain to regulate during the day, unfortunately, we've done these sleep studies, and what happens is that when the brain is dysregulated, when you're laying in bed, even though you're tired, the brain flips and starts to produce more beta activity. So the beta activity is that brain, we call it the reactionary mind. We need that to be awake and alert and do these things, but we don't need it at night, right? We need it in the morning when we're getting up. But
Okay.
because the brain doesn't realize that, and so we recommend most of our studies, and I'll just kind of mention one of the studies that we just did with women who were 55, 65. We found out that their brain was dysregulated. We can't. Where are you located right now?
In Saskatchewan, in Canada.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know if we have a doctor up there. Some of the doctors, like, because we have 2,300 clinics in North America, there might be somebody close. But when we
Well,
measure
actually,
the brain,
we usually go to Mesa for the winter. We didn't this
Mhm.
year. So, I mean, if there'd be somebody in that area, I'm hoping to
Oh
get
yeah,
back there next fall.
oh, we have some really good doctors down in Mesa. Yeah, and his name is Brett Brimhall. His clinic would be really good. He's right
Well,
there in Gilbert.
I didn't hear the
So
name. I'm sorry. You kind of
his
cut
name
out.
is Brett Brimhall.
Brett Brimhall.
Yeah, he's there, Dr. Brimhall. He's right there in Gilbert, which is pretty
Okay.
close to Mesa.
Yeah.
But we have others too in Phoenix. In the Phoenix area, we probably have 40 doctors. But I know that Brett could measure your brain and do what we call a brain map. What
Okay.
we find is that it took about 6 weeks for these women to do this. But what happened during the study, they did it 3 times a day, and they weren't sleeping either, and they had onset dementia. And what we found out was the left hemisphere was moving slower than the right hemisphere, so they weren't communicating correctly. So they have to be synchronized.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something in science that is entrainment. Everything is like that. So when we talk about brain entrainment, what we're training the brain to do is synchronize, depending upon how. And we found that it took 3 times a day for 6 weeks to get that back. And then after that, they could do just one a day, and then if they wanted to, as long as they did one session every 72 hours, which means every other day, it still maintained that. But it's almost like getting in shape, going to the gym. It's going to take a little bit more at first to get the body doing it. And I think since you've been doing it before, I just think maybe in the evening, maybe do it with just the sound. What happens with sound in your brain, depending upon what's happening, is everybody's brain does this, but usually at night it stops producing so much energy. But our brain takes in light, sound, and vibration, like sounds. We take in 25,000 pieces of information every second, but we only act on 40 of them. But the brain is still converting it into energy called ATP, which is, in your case, it's too much energy. So it's waking you up, which means that we need to get the nervous system regulating all that energy. And the brain is 70% of the nervous system. So that's why we're saying with the brain tap, we can start regulating that. And hopefully by the time you get back to Mesa, which you're talking about maybe next year, right? Because of what's happening, your brain will be regulated correctly.
Well, if I don't get
but
back to Mesa, my brain will be off the wall.
Yeah,
I'm missing my
yeah,
winter
it's a big
in the
difference
sun.
between Saskatchewan and Mesa in the winter. I know. So,
Well, we had a
so
beautiful winter though, so I'm not complaining, but
oh, nice.
okay, so
Yeah,
can I
so
do
I
in the morning I would
sure.
start with an AM session one, and then that is just where it says the AM, that's just in
Yeah,
the, and then do
it's
either
in the
an,
lifestyles section. Yeah,
yeah,
it'll say
okay.
AM, or some of them say wake up, and they'll say
Yeah,
like AM focus,
yeah,
concentration.
yeah.
They're all different. They're all different entrainments, and it's really important that you change them up, even if you
Go
find one
through.
you really like, because we want that neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
One of the things with that group I was talking about in the 6 weeks too, we're not able to measure every neuron connection. No, we're not quite there with the science. But what they do is they have an algorithm. They say how much energy is in this part of the brain, and they can extrapolate how much neuroplasticity or how much the brain is transacting information. They had a
Okay.
49% improvement of that flow. And the nice thing about that study was that they no longer had the symptoms of dementia, which we can't say that we cured it, obviously, because only medical practices can cure things. But what we can do is we can help with the symptoms. And
Okay.
so part of it is just regulating that brain. and getting it going. And if during the day you're tired, if you do get tired,
Rarely.
so you might have, yeah, so you have all that energy. That's the problem. We need to regulate some of that out of that. But I would say in the middle of the day, just in the middle of the night, I'm sorry, when you wake up, if you have a way to play it in the room or have earbuds, just put them in and condition yourself to go right back in. And what will happen eventually is the brain will go, oh, she wants to stay sleeping. And if you're doing the CBD and the other, you can still do that and
Okay.
condition that in as well.
Okay. So, so at night, then I would do one of the sleep ones, like
Yes.
rotate the sleep ones.
Yeah.
And I was going to
It
ask
could
you
be
one more.
music only, or it could be ones with words. It just depends on what you want to do. A lot of people
So,
just listen to the music
so
and
it's
go in.
not necessary then to have the lights.
Not at night, not for you,
Okay.
because you have
Yeah.
too much energy. The Here's what happens with the light. The light actually converts the hemoglobin in your ears, and also because your eyes are attached to your brain, it's brain matter. We're getting energy. That light turns into that photic energy, and the body has something called chromophores, which actually works like light panels. You know, like when we're absorbing light from the sun, but our
Yeah.
body does that. So you're converting all that energy. And for you, it's just that much more energy that you have to deal with. That's why your brain thinks you had a night's sleep, because we imitated a cycle of sleep with the light frequencies. So
Okay.
we don't want to do that with you at night. We just
Okay.
want you to have the sound, which will still guide your brain into that state, because you've been conditioning yourself in the morning and in the afternoon. And then you can get into that deep sleep. Most people, though, just so you know, about 95% of our people only listen at night and they fall right to sleep. So, you know, you
Hmm.
just happen to be, you're like my wife. My wife cannot listen after 6 o'clock even. Because her energy level is so high, if she listens, her brain gets tricked and thinks she already had a night's sleep. And she really responds well to it. So it's just
So
too much
she
energy.
doesn't listen after 6 o'clock at night.
Not with the lights. If she's going
Oh,
to
not with
listen,
the
she'll just
lights.
listen with
Okay,
her,
not
she'll
with
just
the
listen with
lights.
her earbuds
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
and do it that way.
Okay. Um, all right. So I think I have the full package. I think I bought, but then I've heard it advertised that you have over 800 sessions. Well, I don't have 800 sessions.
The session, there's a power user version of what we have, and what we'll do is I'll go in with the staff and make sure that you have that. So you might need to log out and log back in. You'll see up on the side of the app, it'll say bundles, and then it'll say power user. If you don't have that right now, you will
Oh,
here in about a half hour once
okay.
we're done. I'll make sure you have that.
Okay, so I'm gonna do, so first thing when I wake up before I get out of bed, I'll do an AM wake up one. Then
Mm-hmm.
about 2 o'clock, I'll do one of the stress reduction or worry free. And then when
Yep.
I'm in bed at night, I'll do a night one without the headset.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want to do, are you using the CBD right before you go to bed as well?
Yeah, usually
Yeah. Yeah. So is it something you eat, or is it something you rub on?
it's
Is
oil.
it
It's oil.
okay? Because if you wanted to, you could even rub a little bit on your ears.
Oh,
That will have an effect on, we've had people do that, because all the meridians, that's why we use the light in the ears. But at night, we're not going to do that. But you could put a little bit, just rub it into the ears. And what'll happen is it'll go through the meridians of the body and start to calm down the rest of the body, calm down the nervous system.
okay.
So that's something that people do with it.
Well, I absolutely love that thing. Honestly, I just can now, except at night, but if like
Yeah.
especially in the afternoon when I put it on, I just go into a zone. Like it's a great thing for sure.
Yeah.
Um, of course, I'll just ask you a question about my husband,
Sure. Sure.
who is a hocus pocus on some of this stuff.
Hmm.
He has diabetes and he's very overweight. Is there a session for diabetes?
We do have a session for diabetes.
And
When you get the power user, you'll see it there.
okay,
Also, you need to let him know that your liver produces so much sugar from stress. Like when you get stressed out, you produce as much sugar as a candy bar. So
okay.
even if he was just using the brain tap to bring down his sugar,
Sure.
it's going to help to regulate his sugar in his system,
Okay.
and get him back in control of that. Because the body gets dysregulated too, and the sugar, right now, of course, with all the things that are happening with people with diabetes, unfortunately, my grandfather, they know that was a complication from him, but back then he was on insulin. So you want to make sure we have, for the type 2 diabetes, it's our weight loss program. For type 1 diabetes, we have a program for that.
Well, he's
That's in the
type
power
2, but
user section.
he's type 2, but he takes insulin.
Okay.
So would I
So
do the
yeah,
diabetes one or the weight loss or a combination of both?
if he's taking the medicine, he might want to listen to the diabetes one, because it talks about, being, we work with a lot of medical doctors with that one. Basically, make sure people stay compliant, because a lot of people don't stay compliant with their insulin, and that dysregulates the body too.
No, he's very good with, his medication, and on the whole, very good with eating, but he does not exercise like the thing he needs most. So I just need, he does suffer from some depression too. So, if you could just get
Well, that's what we're going to work with, because the brain produces those neurotransmitters that make you feel good or bad. And also, when the brain is dysregulated, a lot of anxiety, fear, depression. We're doing a study right now in Brazil, where it's actually a 2-year study with a double-blind placebo. They're considering BrainTap a digital drug, because we can create the neurotransmitters. We don't create them, but we set up the environment where the body produces them. And what most people don't know is that those neurotransmitters are made in the gut. So if there's a dysregulation there because of the stress, then it's going to help him with that, what they call the gut-brain axis. Okay. And we show, when I had my franchise company before, back in 2006, we had a big feature in People magazine, because we had so many people that had taken half their weight off and kept it off for more than 5 years. And my father was 450 pounds and my mother was 320. So we were really big on getting people healthy through weight. And both of them remained thin for the last 30 years of their life, but they had to work on their mindset, and in what we found too is that we have a study that shows that when you do the BrainTap, even without exercise, you're boosting your metabolism. Okay. Because your nervous system controls your metabolism. But if we can get his mood more positive, maybe he'll get out there going for walks. The walking is so good for the brain. I mean, if you can't do anything else, just get out and walk. Yeah. 10, 15 minutes is going to do wonders for the way he thinks, and it'll change his whole attitude. We do a lot of work with somebody named Kathy Smith.
I should have you talking to him and not me.
Yeah. Well, once this is live, he can listen to it. The key thing is that the brain is such a key part of it. And if we just kind of let it run itself, we've got to do something to maintenance how we think. And, we're not trained to do that. I mean, we've got to, now they know better, we have to have times of rest and repair. And, for years, we just thought we could put whatever we want in our bodies and then it was going to be healthy. And now we're finding out, at least it's just type 2. So you can at least reverse that. The type 1 is the one.
I know.
Yeah. So a lot of people reverse that.
I know. The thing I like about this too is that they're all downloaded. So I'm a big thing about EMFs. I've got EMFs things. I've got a key. Do you know what key? Do you know what the key devices are? So at least at night I can put my thing on airplane mode and still play it, because I really like that. And I like that you also supply the cord so that you don't have to Bluetooth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. We use a lot of the earthing technology. If you might want to look at that. Earthing, like with Clint Oper?
I have an earthing mat.
Oh, great. Yeah, Clint's a good friend of mine. We use all of his materials, and he's also a brain tapper. So they use it. And so it's
with the earthing mat, is that something that I should be doing every day, do you think?
Oh yeah, you should be sitting on it as much as you can, especially inside the house. I mean, while I'm sitting here talking to you, I have my computer is on an earthing mat, so I can touch it. And I don't know if you've ever seen like these devices. I keep one right here because I talk about it so much. But you can measure the energy in your body. And when you talk about like the EMFs and things like that are happening, our body collects that energy. We're supposed to be at a zero no point. But when there's EMFs and stuff, we've measured people that have up to 7 volts in their body. We should be at 0. But as soon as you touch a grounding mat, or you walk outside, for those that are listening that can't afford a grounding mat, you can walk outside barefoot, or just as long as you have leather shoes. I have some moccasins I wear when I walk outside, because you can't get cold here in North Carolina too. You can't walk outside, but I can walk outside with those, and it's just like I'm on the earth. What we found is that it grounds all that energy out of your body.
Oh, with moccasins you can walk, because that's
Yeah,
my issue here. I mean, right now, obviously not. So with my grounding mat, I have a desk where I do some crafting and that, and I just sit with my feet on it. Is that
that's perfect. Yep. That's
okay?
exactly what we have for my wife downstairs where her computer is. She's got a grounding mat that she puts her feet on. I just have mine here where it's a small one that goes on my keyboard, sits on it with my thing. So, because I'm always touching it while I'm
Okay.
doing these presentations. And then at the office where I'm at my home right now, but at my office, I have one underneath my desk too. So I can take my shoes off and just be right there and be
Okay.
grounded, just like I'm working outside, and I don't have to worry about all the electronics.
So now we're kind of getting off topic here,
Yeah.
but you're very interesting. So I did read that when you plug your grounding mat in, like I live in a very old house,
Hmm.
and that maybe your power source isn't, uh, I mean, upstairs we have some of the older wiring. Is that going to make a difference?
Well, that might mean it's throwing off a lot more energy, because it's not shielded as much. What some people do actually, you ever heard of magnets, cow magnets, like they would give on the farm? They would give them to the cow to collect the staples and things. They're 30-pound magnets. And some people will put those on the outside before the power comes into your house. If you put two of those on the outside, it takes all the extraneous electromagnetics, it kind of
Oh,
strips them out. So that
okay.
cleans it up. The main thing is you should have shoot, I just had it here in my hand a minute ago. You should have this. For some reason, I just had this in my hand. You should have something like this that you can plug in, and if it's grounded, it'll tell you. It
Oh,
looks like this. Do you have
okay.
something like this?
No.
It should have came with your kit. This is from Earthing. But if you get a hold of them and say, hey, you want to, these are probably not very expensive. It came with the Earthing kit. We even have one on our bed that is a sheet that when we're sleeping at night, we're laying on an Earthing sheet
Yeah.
that grounds us.
So
So
is that the website, Earthing?
yes, if you
Earthing.com?
go earthing.com/brain tap, I think they'll give you a discount too, because we do a
Okay.
lot with Clint.
Okay. I just ordered my mat off of Amazon, so I'm not even sure
Mm-hmm.
I don't know it
Yeah,
didn't come with a
yeah.
plug.
Yeah, they're probably good. I mean, there's a lot of people are doing it. Clint just happens to be the guy that did it first, but there's a lot of companies that have. They even sell devices you put on your shoes, so you can wear any kind of shoes, and then it has a link that goes down, so you're touching the earth. I mean, people have gotten pretty crazy, or in ingenuity, I guess, because of all this radiation that we're exposed to now. We've got to do something.
Well, it's coming worse. That 5G. Well, the thing that I'm listening to a cardiovascular docuseries right now because my husband has had a heart attack, and they did say that earthing is great to get the energy in the heart, like get it flowing better. So,
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and you can look up Clint Oper and Earthing, his whole movie's online. Mariel Hemingway, who you might know from the movies, she's Ernest Hemingway's granddaughter. She's a friend of ours too, and she's a spokesperson for them. And she's done a lot of videos online about it. So the
uh,
men will watch it.
and what was what did I want to watch on YouTube?
Just put in Earthing or Clint Oper. You'll see videos that they did. There's a whole movie. There's an Earthing movie, which is very well done. It talks about how Earthing brings down inflammation by 25%
Yeah,
in the body.
I know. Okay. Okay, now let me think if I had any other questions. I'm going to really, really work on this sleep routine because, yeah, I mean, uh, definitely my sleep has improved 50% in the last 6 months, but I'm not where I should be yet.
Right. Let's see if we can
So,
get you the rest of the way there. That would be good. And you might want to even put they sell now Earthing. If you go to earthing.com, they sell a Earthing pillowcase. So you might
okay.
want to get that for sleeping. And I've recommended that to a couple of people because you might need to ground that energy. You might be in a place that has a lot of energy. Like some people, they have these voltometers. This
I
one you
have
can't
one of
do
those.
it with.
I have a volt.
Okay.
I have one of those. I'm not
So
quite
what
sure
you
how to interpret it though.
well, when you go in there, turn it on, and it should be 0 point. It should be zero. You zero it out, test it, lay down like you're laying in bed, hold on to both ends, and see if it registers if you're holding a current. If
Okay.
you are, then you know that you're in a place in your home that has a lot of energy because it comes through the walls. Like in the UK, I don't know if in Canada they do this. I know that some places do, but in the UK they turn off the electricity in the room. They actually have a switch that turns it
Yeah.
off. But in the US here, they just let the electricity leak out everywhere. I mean, we should have these switches that stop it in the room, but when it's doing that, you can actually measure it. And you might be sleeping in what they call a cross section, like where a junction box is or something like that, and your body is collecting that energy, especially if you're sensitive to that anyway, which it sounds like you are, because you might be like, we all can handle so much energy, and when we get this much more, it puts us over the edge, and you don't have a buffer. We need to get it down so you have that buffer to handle that.
So I had read that if you're waking up in the night, and this is probably what we've been talking about, your cortisol levels are quite high. Is that so? This is what we're trying to get down with all of this.
Yes, at 3:30 every morning, just like 2 o'clock when I was talking about. 3:30 every morning is the biological reset of everybody on the planet. Resets at 3:30 to 5, 3:30 to 4 in the morning. So that's why a lot of people wake up at that time. We need to keep you in a deep. We need you to experience that in theta or delta, so you don't wake up. You're probably experiencing that because you're a light sleeper. You said so. We need to condition your brain to get you into a deeper sleep, so it doesn't wake you up. It's basically rebooting the system. That's why in India, actually, when I travel to India, they actually call that's the best time to get up and do your prayers and things like that. That's what they do. They go outside and actually get infrared from the sun, even though we can't see it. That's the best time to get that, and that's a real healing light. They call it helotherapy in India. They actually wake up and go outside, even though it looks like it's dark still. You're getting this radiation that's positive for our body. The healing light.
Okay. Well, I mean, sleep is such an important thing. I mean, if you don't get it, your brain doesn't clean itself out, but it can be such a sucker to.
Right.
So
yeah, we talk about that all the time. We need to get you to have those deep delta bursts, they call them, so your brain can detox during that level 4 sleep. And that's the biggest thing we do usually is people will tell us their sleeping is improved, but to really maximize it, we need to get you doing at least for, I would say, 6 weeks. Do it three times a day. Okay. And the third time you can do it just with the earbuds or whatever, just to condition, because the sounds will still be there and you'll get that rhythm. It's that you'll still get that synchronization that's happening. The first 4 minutes of every session is synchronizing the hemispheres. That's what it's doing. Okay. On each session.
So now I haven't done a lot of work with just the music. I've always sort of liked the talking, but is the music as good, better?
Well, it's a matter of preference, but for some people at night, the words might be too stimulating as well because you're having to think. And our left brain kind of handles that logical circuit that makes sense out of the words, that we're using. So you might try it both ways and see what happens. I mean, we have the music a lot in there because our doctors like to do it when they're doing therapy. When you can't listen to somebody, maybe you're doing some kind of therapy that has a different noise or they need to talk to you, they can just listen with the sounds.
Because there's the whole tones ones there, isn't there, for sleep? And I did listen to that one that night with the Brahms lullaby on it. I loved it. But again, when I took it off, I woke myself up.
So let's do it without the light so you don't bring that much energy in. So see what happens.
Well, that's been very informative. I'm gonna certainly give it a good shot for the next 6 weeks, and yeah.
Okay, well, let us know how you do, and I'm going to make sure when we get off the line here that your power user is activated, so you have that. And you can see those other sessions. You'll see there's a lot in there. We actually have over 1,300 sessions, so you'll see them, and that's where the new ones typically get added. So you'll get access to those.
Okay. Well,
all right. I'll make.
Much. That's been great. I follow you, and this has been one of the best things I've ever invested in for sure. So, thank you so much.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing with us, and good luck to you. And hopefully, you can convert your husband into a brain tapper and get him relaxing.
If I can do that, I can do almost anything, but I'm going to give it a shot. Actually, he said to me one day, this is a while back before I got my headset, he said, I sure wish I knew how to meditate. Well, this will
There you go.
be what he needs to do. So I'm going to
Yeah.
work on him.
Yeah. Just let him know that anything worth doing well is worth doing terrible at first.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to be perfect. So we'll work from there.
And if you are listening and you fall asleep, it's still working,
That's
isn't
perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Because I
You have about
guarantee
a 45-minute window. Yeah, you have about a 45-minute window when you go to sleep. You've probably fallen asleep before watching television, and then you started incorporating whatever the movie was into your dreams. That's
No,
really
not
kind
me.
of what we want to do.
I don't fall asleep if there's any noise. That's not me. But
Okay,
he'll fall asleep. If I put the headset on, I guarantee he'll be asleep. It's one thing, he sleeps like a log. So,
that's
yeah.
great.
Okay.
Well, even if you're listening in the room and he's there, he can still benefit from it. Just tell him to follow along. Do it as a thing you do together. And
Well,
that'd be fine.
to be honest with you, I've moved out of the bedroom in the last 2 months. I actually came up, just him getting up at night to go to the bathroom had me awake, and I was awake.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying, if I can get this because I'd rather certainly be sleeping with him, but it's made a huge difference sleeping on my own, just not having that noise of him going to the washroom at night.
Mm-hmm.
That's how light I sleep.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, best of luck, and please let us know how you're doing and how we can help you.
thank you very much.
Okay.
That was a very
All right.
enjoyable session.